Part 22. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 211. Lu Zihao is back to his old job, kidnapping and extortion is his old specialty. The kidnapping process has been rehearsed several times to make sure there are no omissions. He stood up and shouted at the 30 or so brothers who were ready to go, "Brothers! It's not easy for us to come here from a long distance. It's said that killing and arson can win the gold belt. Brothers, do you want the gold belt?" Yes, the roar of more than 30 people was deafening. "Let's go." Lu Zihao led the team personally. After all, this is a big deal, and his wealth and glory in the second half of his life depends on tonight. He left more than a dozen people waiting in the warehouse, so that they could watch Lu's hiding. More than 30 people, wearing black sportswear, carrying various climbing tools and weapons, set off in the night. The south side of Beijao Peak is the route for sightseeing pilgrims. The road has been repaired and there are street lights, but there are surveillance cameras. Lu Zihao chose to walk on the north side of the mountain. Although the road is not easy to walk, it will not attract anyone's attention. Asterisk. The eldest lady has a high fever, 39.3 degrees. Scarface Along looked at the forehead thermometer worriedly. "Do you want me to carry the eldest lady down the mountain?" "No change, another fever-reducing patch," said Old Master Cheng. "She's fine, just have a fever, sweat, and wait until dawn to be fine." Old Master Cheng has always been majestic and never allowed anyone to argue. Along had to take out a fever-reducing patch, and just as he was about to tear open the outer package, suddenly, his ears moved. There was a sound outside. He immediately put his hand on Old Master Cheng's hand, made a gesture, pointed outside, and made a walking gesture with his fingers. "Someone is coming." Old Master Cheng's face became solemn. Usually, every Mid-Autumn Festival meeting would arrange a large group of bodyguards to guard, and there were also many servants responsible for cooking vegetarian meals, cleaning, making beds, and other miscellaneous tasks. But this Mid-Autumn Festival is an important day for the granddaughter's soul to return to one. One more person, one more variable. To be on the safe side, Old Master Cheng sent everyone down the mountain. He was the only one left. Now there was one more person, Along. There had been no trouble for more than 20 years, so why did someone come to cause trouble today? Along pulled out 2 daggers from his waist, stretched out 2 fingers of his right hand, pointed at his eyes, and then pointed outside. "You stay here, I'll go out and take a look." Old Master Chen nodded and gestured. "Be careful." Along walked to the window, gently pushed open a crack, looked out, and saw no one. It seemed that the person had not entered the temple courtyard for the time being. He touched the ground with his toes, jumped out lightly, and then closed the window. Old Master Cheng was afraid that making a sound would alarm the people outside, so he used his mobile phone to send a crisis help message to his son, grandson, and the housekeeper at the foot of the mountain, and then muted the phone. After sending the message, he bent down and dragged out a wooden box from under the bed. He opened the wooden box, and there was a wooden crossbow in the wooden box. There are too many wild cats on the mountain, which have injured countless birds such as dark green-backed cormorants, brown-winged terns, green-browed ducks, as well as small animals such as squirrels and flat-scaled blunt-headed snakes. This crossbow was specially approved by him and the local government to protect animals on the mountain. Although the old man is old, he exercises regularly and pays attention to maintenance. His physical fitness is better than that of ordinary young people. He loaded the rapid-fire crossbow arrows, held the crossbow arrows steadily with both hands, and sat on the stool in front of Cheng Ling's bed to guard and wait. The cool breeze on the top of the mountain late at night, the round moon hung in the sky, and the top of the mountain was very quiet. The door of the temple was closed, and the lights were on in the main hall and the 2 side halls. But there was no figure, and no sound of anyone talking. Lu Zihao was a little confused. Logically speaking, the Cheng family is also a wealthy family, so there should be a bodyguard, right? We have reached the top of the mountain, why can't we see the shadow of a bodyguard? Could it be that Lu's hiding's information is wrong? He waved his hand and asked more than 30 brothers behind him to disperse and surround the temple. When they were in position, Lu Zihao loaded the pistol in his hand and raised his side face. One of his men immediately understood, holding a machete, and pushed the door of the temple with full vigilance. The door of the temple was only half closed. With a slight push, it was pushed open. Along held the dagger with both hands and hid behind the pillar. The scar on his face collapsed into a tense line. There were too many people coming. He alone, with 2 daggers, could not handle it. But, even if he risked his life, he had to protect the old man and the eldest lady. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 212. Along hid in the shadows. 2 people sneaked into the temple. The 2 people hurriedly scanned the temple courtyard, which was densely forested and full of insects. They did not see along behind the pillar. The 2 people waved to the outside of the door when they saw no one. The people outside the temple entered the door cautiously one by one. Along exhaled slowly and put away his dagger. These people were weak and limp, not like martial artists. He could kill as many as possible to delay time and wait for rescue. He rolled forward on the spot, crouched behind a lone man, and hit the back of the man's head with his elbow. The man fell silently, and Along quickly caught the machete in the man's hand that was about to fall to the ground, and blocked the man's limp body with one leg. Along gently put the man down in the corner against the wall. Then, holding a machete, Along imitated the gangster's walking posture of looking around, mixed into the gangster's team, and when the time was right, he knocked down a few more. Along counted silently in his heart, 4. But he did not find the gang leader. Lu Zihao left 5 or 6 men outside the temple. When he found that the men who entered the temple were safe and sound, he walked into the courtyard cautiously with a gun. The men looked at Lu Zihao. This was too smooth. How could there be no one? Search, Lu Zihao ordered. More than a dozen people acted separately at the same time. Brother. There is no one in the main hall. Brother, there is no one here either. However, no one answered in the right side hall. Lu Zihao turned his head and looked at the right side hall. The door of the right side hall was tightly closed, and the lights were on inside. No one could enter the right side hall. Lu Zihao's originally disappointed mood ignited hope. It seems that the Cheng family is hiding in the right side hall. He clenched the gun in his hand and suddenly shouted, "Friend hiding in the dark, you are now exposed. We all go out to make money, there is no need to fight to the death. If you keep the Green Mountains, you will not worry about firewood. Get out of the way, we will not hurt you, nor will we hurt the people in the house. We are just a little tight on money and want to borrow money to spend." A few gangsters who wanted to rush into the right side hall were lying at Along's feet. At this moment, he just hid behind the pillar silently, listening to Lu Zihao's shouting and adjusting his breathing. He has been exposed, and it is impossible to sneak attack. Next, it is a hard fight. Along moved his cervical vertebrae and held the dagger tighter with both hands. "Since you don't come out, we won't be polite," Lu Zihao raised his hand, "Kill in." Moving left and right, but no one rushed out. The other party is hiding in the dark, whoever rushes in will die quickly. Lu Zihao shouted angrily. Whoever goes in first can get an extra 100,000 yuan. Money makes the devil work. Immediately, 2 men who were greedy for money rushed to the side hall. 2 knife lights flashed. The weapons in the 2 hands fell to the ground at the same time, and then the 2 men screamed and covered their right hands and lay on the ground. 9. Along held the dagger upside down and blocked the door of the hall with his body. The unknown will make people afraid. As soon as Along appeared, the other gangsters saw that he was alone and his weapons were just 2 daggers, and their fears instantly dissipated. Him. A group of people screamed and rushed over with weapons raised. Along was a practical thug with extremely clean and neat movements. A heavy machete chopped at his face. Along ducked down, and the dagger in his left hand cut the opponent's wrist steadily and accurately, and the other dagger cut a cut from the lower right to the upper right diagonally. Although it was not fatal, it directly disabled the opponent. More people rushed up. Along stabbed with his left and right swords, and dodged the opponent's slashes, cuts, and stabs. Others saw the opportunity, kicked open the door of the side hall, and rushed in. "Old man," Along roared heartbreakingly. He wanted to rush over, but was slashed from behind, right on the shoulder blade. He groaned, supported himself with one hand, turned his body around, and stabbed the opponent's right lung with a knife. The opponent instantly had pneumothorax and knelt down with his chest covered. Along rushed to the door of the side hall. Only the screams of several people came from inside, followed by the sound of thumping to the ground. Along saw the 3 people who had just rushed in, with half a crossbow arrow stuck in their chests, screaming and crawling out of the house. Old Master Cheng's gray hair stood up, like a killing god, holding a crossbow, standing in front of the unconscious Cheng Ling. With steady and quick hands, he filled the crossbow's automatic quiver and aimed it at the door. Along breathed a sigh of relief and swallowed the blood in his mouth. His dagger had been lost, so he bent down and picked up a machete from the ground and rushed towards the crowd. After all, he was outnumbered, and Along's skin was torn and blood was flying. The cunning Lu Zihao observed for a long time before confirming that the other side could only fight 2 people. And the gray-haired old man in the room was the last generation of the Cheng family's head, Old Master Cheng. Lu Zihao saw an opportunity and shot Along bang. Along pulled a gangster over and blocked him in front of him. The gangster screamed. Along threw the gangster away and continued to dodge. Lu Zihao continued to shoot at Along. He didn't care about the life and death of his men. Glory and wealth were before his eyes. Old Master Cheng hit 2 more people, and the 3rd crossbow arrow missed. The man walked towards Old Master Cheng with a sneer. The old man was not panicked at all, and quickly loaded the crossbow arrow. This was the last crossbow arrow. When the man came closer, Old Master Cheng pulled the trigger of the crossbow arrow. It hit. The man was pierced through the shoulder blade by the powerful crossbow arrow, and he knelt on the ground and rolled in pain. Lu Zihao, who was chasing along, noticed that the old man did not reload the crossbow arrow. He guessed that the old man's crossbow arrows should have been used up. So he gave up Along and aimed his gun at the right side hall. Bang! The crossbow arrow in Old Master Cheng's hand was smashed to pieces. Lu Zihao walked towards Old Master Cheng with a sneer. Along was covered with wounds at this moment, and the whole person was like a blood gourd. When he saw Lu Zihao walking towards the side hall, he rushed over regardless and hugged Lu Zihao's legs. Lu Zihao kicked Along to the ground. Along crawled on the ground in vain for a few times, trying to stand up in vain. But he had no strength left. Lu Zihao pointed the gun at Along's head, and his finger was about to pull the trigger. Swoosh! A crossbow arrow came through the air. The arrow had fiercely pierced Lu Zihao's right wrist, and 2/3 of the crossbow arrow pierced Lu Zihao's wrist before it barely stopped. The gun fell to the ground with a click. Lu Zihao covered his wrist and screamed. How could it be possible? The crossbow had obviously been broken by him. Beads of sweat rolled down Lu Zihao's forehead, and he endured the pain and looked towards the right hall. A slender woman half knelt on the ground in the side hall, her right arm still in a throwing posture. And the crossbow arrow stuck in the body of the gangster lying at her feet disappeared. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 213. Lu Zihao was stunned. Is that a mistake? Was this arrow thrown by hand? In just a moment, the woman appeared in front of Lu Zihao like a ghost and picked up the gun. She was extremely beautiful. Lu Zihao, who had seen countless beauties, could not find a woman who could compare with her. Her hair is as loose as seaweed, and her face is extremely delicate, especially her eyes, which look like the Milky Way has been crushed and sprinkled inside. But her face was pale, her cheeks were a little flushed, and her handsome eyebrows were slightly frowned, as if she was enduring pain. The pain in Chen Ling's head was really severe, almost as if it had been split open by an axe. Whenever she sleeps or even in a coma, she leaves a nerve for herself. She could hear what was happening outside. She woke herself up from a coma. There was a deep sadness filling her heart that she couldn't savor now. She only allowed herself to experience anger. Lu Zihao stared at her face without blinking, almost forgetting the pain in his wrist. So beautiful. Chen Ling ignored Lu Zihao and checked Aaron's injuries from head to toe. His injuries were serious, but fortunately not fatal. She gently lifted Aaron, who was bleeding profusely on the ground, with both hands, carefully avoiding his wounds. It's not easy. Because he doesn't have a few intact parts of his body. Chen Ling's face darkened. Aaron was being lifted up by the eldest lady. He was frightened. He tried hard to endure the pain, his teeth and joints were chattering and he said, "Big, big, eldest lady. You're bigger. Shut up." Veins popped up on Chen Ling's forehead. Aaron shut up obediently. She returned to the side hall in a few steps and gently laid Aaron on the bed. "Grandpa, please take care of Aaron." He took out Lu Zihao's gun from his pocket and put it next to his pillow, just in case. Without saying much, Mr. Chen immediately pulled out the spare medical kit under the bed. Everyone in the courtyard, even those who were injured, were lying on the ground and forgot to cry out in pain. They are instinctively afraid. "Are you eating shit?" Lu Zihao shouted. "What are you afraid of? Go and hum them." Although the boss is injured, they still have a chance to win. The other party is just a thin and slender beautiful girl, what is there to be afraid of? Yeah, what were they afraid of just now? Why didn't they even dare to take a breath after the woman came out? They didn't notice that all the bugs in the temple who were originally called Huan fell silent. The gangsters looked at the boss who was covering his wrist. Now is a good chance to show off in front of the boss. So, the uninjured men, who were injured and could still move, rushed towards the side hall with weapons in hand. Seeking death, Chen Ling scolded lightly. She caught a glimpse of the heavy solid wood stool in the room. She picked up the stool and with a little force, the stool roared like a torpedo shell and hit the gangsters who were about to rush in. The momentum was so great that the stool became heavy, and everyone immediately fell on their backs. A few of them hid quickly and were lucky enough not to be hit by the stool. Before they could recover, Chen Ling had already arrived at the door. She jumped lightly, grabbed the door frame with both hands, and slashed her right leg across the air. Several people only felt severe pain in their left ears, their eyes went dark, and they threw themselves into the street one after another. Chen Ling glanced at the ground and saw a tungsten steel swinging stick, with his toes on one end of the swinging stick. The swinging stick tilted up, and she hooked her instep upwards. The swinging stick flew up, and she caught it with one hand. It feels good in hand. Then, she was like a sharp sword cutting into a block of tofu, and the block of tofu fell apart in an instant. But not a piece of tofu residue can touch the sharp sword. The remaining gangsters who were still standing fell one after another. A swing stick, in the hands of ordinary people, has a lethality of 2. So in Chen Ling's hands, the lethality can fluctuate as desired between 2 and 2000. She was extremely precise, causing everyone to lose their fighting power and suffer constant pain. What's even worse is that her head hurts, she can't hear the screams, and everyone's jaw has been dislocated by a precise swing of the stick. A group of people fell to the ground, salivating on their tongues, ah, ah, ah. The people standing outside the temple didn't see Chen Ling's shadow clearly, but he was picked up in a few moments and thrown into the yard by his neck. No fish slipped through the net. Chen Ling ducked back to Lu Zihao, who had witnessed everything. Lu Zihao was so frightened that he crawled back. She said word by word, "How the hell do you dare to touch my people?" The next moment, she grabbed the tail end of Lu Zihao's wrist crossbow and rotated it 180 degrees. The flesh, fascia, and bones made a dull sound under the stirring of the arrow handle. Ah, ah, spare, spare, spare my life. Lu Zihao's screams were endless. Who asked you to come? Lu Zihao gasped in pain and was trembling, unable to answer her questions at all. Chen Ling inserted the stick and crossbow arrow into his wound, then struck out, say. Lu's hiding, she is at the spare parts warehouse at the foot of North Peak Mountain. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 214. Lu Zihao's lips turned pale from the pain. Just as he was about to continue screaming, Chen Ling raised her hand and dislocated his jaw. Lu Zihao could only stick out his tongue and scream ah, ah, ah briefly. Lu Zihao looked at Chen Ling in horror. Her fingers moved all the way from the ankle to the shoulder blade, and the sounds of crack and tearing continued. The heel tendon was ruptured, the ankle was dislocated, the calf gastrocnemius was torn, the thigh bone was dislocated, the clavicle was broken, and both arms were dislocated. Each of these injuries would be identified as a minor injury in the medical community, but not a minor injury. These injuries were as painful as being bitten by thousands of ants. Lu Zihao could do nothing but lie on the ground, drooling and whimpering in pain. The people in the yard were drooling, looking at the cruel and taciturn female devil in horror, desperately waiting for her next move. Chen Ling turned back to the side hall. Old Master Chen treated the wound in an unfamiliar way. "Grandpa, give it to me," she stretched out her hand. Seeing her lips were red and almost bleeding, her face was pale, and her body was emitting heat, Old Master Chen knew that her high fever had not subsided, but had become more serious. He hesitated and looked at his granddaughter with some awe. "Grandpa," she tilted her head with a little confusion. The murderous aura around her was completely gone. She was his granddaughter. Old Master Chen handed the small scissors and bandages to Chen Ling. Her hands were very fast and precise, and she treated the wound very skillfully. From far below the mountain came the sound of dogs barking and people shouting, "Hurry up!" The police, the medical team, and the security team and bodyguard team urgently summoned by the Chen group rushed up the mountain. The criminals who were drooling and calling out "ah" in a yard all breathed a sigh of relief. "Police comrade, help! Help!" 20 minutes later, the gangsters waiting for good news in the warehouse, and Lu's hiding, who was looking forward to venting her anger, were arrested by the fully armed police who descended from the sky. Aaron was rushed to the hospital. He was lucky and had a good life. Although his wounds were hideous, the most serious one was the cut on his shoulder blade, which fractured the bone. After emergency surgery, he was kept in the hospital for observation and treatment. Lu's hiding instigated crime, hired a killer to kidnap and wound people, and the evidence is conclusive. Because of the bad social response, she was sentenced to more than 3 years and less than 10 years in prison. Cheng's gold medal lawyer Gao said, "I will strive to deal with her strictly." Old Master Chen nodded, "The prison should take good care of Lu's hiding. Most of the criminals have minor injuries. A few of them dare not and cannot cause trouble to Miss and along. They are killing each other. Old Master Chen nodded, "Thank you for your hard work, Lawyer Gao. It's my duty. And, I didn't do much. Miss and Along are very powerful. When treating and identifying the wounds of criminals, the forensic identification was shocked. Give the enemy the most painful experience at the lowest cost. This is a textbook-level defense. In addition, someone called the police and said that Miss Cheng is a special employee of the National Special Department. Even if she accidentally killed 1 or 2 people in this emergency, she does not have to bear any responsibility." Old Master Cheng asked, "But it was the work of the Zhang family." Lawyer Gao said, "This is a military secret and it is not convenient to disclose it to me. But I personally infer that it is almost certain that it is the Zhang family." Old Master Cheng pondered for a moment, "This matter must be kept confidential." Lawyer Gao nodded, "I know the severity." Lawyer Gao, go and get busy. Lawyer Gao glanced at Chen Ling, who was receiving an 4 on the bed, and thought to himself that with such a person, the glorious days of the Cheng group are still behind. "I am so lucky," Lawyer Gao sighed at his good luck and left with the documents. Asterisk. Report to Chief Zhang, we have shown the relevant documents to Hangzhou City. Chen Ling does not need to bear any legal responsibility. Zhang Qilan nodded. It is said that beauties are the source of troubles since ancient times. People have always misunderstood the saying. It is not that beauties are the source of troubles, and troubles are more likely to target beauties to cause trouble. Beauty, or people with ability, will attract more attention, attracting either admiration or jealousy. Good things and bad things, all surround them. Day and night. Just like Chen Ling, unconsciously, everyone's eyes are focused on her. The problem is that there is now a Frenchman with unknown purpose staring at Chen Ling. Zhang Qilan frowned. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 215. When will Laura Vincent come out? Zhang Qilan asked. Instead of holding Laura accountable, Mu Yongming was very grateful to her. Mu's father said that luckily Laura saved Zhang Qiun. If Zhang Qiun had any shortcomings, they would not be able to pay for their sins even if they died. The subordinate replied, "You can be released at 11 o'clock today." During this period, apart from Zhang Qiun's 2 visits, did she contact anyone else? Zhang Qilan asked. No. In addition, a message just came from the bureau, saying that Zhang Qiun is waiting in the bureau at this moment, and he should be picking up the Frenchman. Zhang Qilan was silent for a while. I see. Zhang Qilan was not surprised when his younger brother went to pick up Laura Vincent. In the past few days at home, my brother has been chased and fed by everyone, and he has become a little depressed. It was natural for him to go out to visit his savior and avoid being fed. So, do you want your brother to keep an eye on Laura? Or should we simply tell Chen Ling directly? Chen Ling, has her fever gone? How come he suddenly developed a high fever despite being so fine? Asterisk. Chen Ling had a long and sad dream. In the dream, there are raging wars, severe droughts, floods, and locust plagues one after another. The people are in dire straits, and the hungry people eat each other. China divided its territory and split its soil. Her fiancé, who had been on the battlefield for decades and had made great achievements in battle, had his car broken up in the capital for offending his ministers. Her father and brother died on the battlefield due to the new general's wrong command. Before I could wipe away my tears, the war had already reached my hometown. She picked up the sword, summoned her fiancé's old troops, and countless people surrendered to fight against the invaders together. The first time she killed someone, her dreams were filled with the eyes of the deceased. Then I became numb. She killed countless people. War is cruel. Either you die or I die. Until death. Do you still feel after death? Have. She could hear the people paying tribute to her and chatting about their family affairs. The war is over, and the land has become barren and needs to be reclaimed. The hen at home refuses to lay eggs. Why is my grandson so naughty that he climbs trees every day to dig out bird eggs and doesn't want to study? No matter how trivial it is, come and seek her blessing. She thought, who can she protect? Later, few people came to her for protection. But there are always people guarding the place for a long time, carefully wiping the clay sculptures, burning incense and offering tributes day and night. Although most of the time the tributes are very simple, they will never stop. Too stupid. Chen Ling thought. But if she could, she would like to say thank you to them in person. Chen Ling opened his eyes. It's all white. Tick tick tick, the medicine in the bottle flows into the body little by little. She sat up. Sister. Sister, you're awake. Chen Mian, whose smiling face popped out from the side, and he shouted in succession, Grandpa, Grandpa, my sister is awake. Chen Ling took Chen Xiaomei's hand. How are you? Do you feel uncomfortable? Or where do you feel uncomfortable? Hey, you guys are so weird. Grandpa asked me this question repeatedly. Chen Xiaomei smiled. I couldn't be better. I'm as light as a snail suddenly taking off its shell. Mr. Cheng pushed the door in from the outside. Xiaoling, you're awake. How's Aaron? It's not life-threatening. The doctor said that if you take good care of yourself, you can recover as before. Old Mrs. Cheng said, your parents still wanted to come, but I didn't let you. I said we would go back to Maple City in the afternoon. Chen Xiaomei's eyes lit up. Grandpa, are you also going back to Maple City? Are you going to return to secular life? Mrs. Cheng sighed long and long. Yes. I want to return to secular life. I want to go home. Chen Ling pulled out the needle and jumped out of bed lightly. Grandpa, I want to go back to Huling Temple for a visit. Chen Xiaomei was surprised. Ah. Now. Sister, are you kidding me? Well, now. Then I'll find someone to accompany you. Old Mrs. Cheng said not surprisingly. No, just take me to the foot of the mountain. I want to go up alone. Please find someone to prepare a set of plainer clothes for me. She was going to see off an old friend. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 216. Half an hour later, Chen Ling, who had washed and changed into a long white cotton dress, appeared at the foot of Beijiaofen with 2 large bags of fruits and snacks. Because of the case, Beijiaofen was temporarily closed. Old Master Chen greeted people, and Chen Ling was not stopped and was allowed to enter the mountain gate. Looking up at Beijiaofen at this moment, her mood was completely different from the mood when she stood at the foot of the mountain yesterday. The feeling was even more different. For others, there is no difference between mountains, rivers, sun and moon, flowers, birds, fish and insects. But in Chen Ling's eyes, everything is different. She is no longer a spectator, but a participant. The body is lighter, the senses are more acute, and the mind is more flexible. She understands what beauty is and what love is. Everything she lacked, is back. It took half an hour to climb the mountain yesterday, but it took less than half the time today. This time, she did not rush into the temple, but stood outside the door, looking up at the black plaque, and carefully depicting the horizontal and vertical strokes on the plaque with her eyes. Huling Temple. After a long while, she finally opened the door and walked in. The temple had been cleaned up. The place where the clay sculptures were originally placed in the main hall was now empty. The fruit plate and food box on the offering table were empty, and there was no incense in the incense burner. Chen Ling took out a clean handkerchief from her bag, carefully wiped the offering table and the plates clean, and then respectfully placed the tributes she brought on the table one by one, lit 3 incense sticks, knelt on the cushion, kowtowed 3 times, and then inserted the incense in the incense burner. She walked to the lake and looked at the quiet lake. Then she sang softly. Outside the long pavilion, beside the ancient road, the grass is green and connected to the sky. At the end of the sky, at the corner of the earth, half of my friends are gone. Ask you when you will come back, don't hesitate when you come. Life is rare to be together, but there are many separations. Chen Ling's voice is crisp and pleasant, like the sound of wind chimes. Her singing at this moment is more moving than her neutral voice when she was an agent. There is a touch of lightness and elegance, and because of the surging heart at this moment, there is a little more sadness. If Chen Ling's fans can hear her singing at this moment, they will probably cry bitterly. My sister Ling's voice, which is the most unimpressive, can actually be so beautiful. At the end of the song, Chen Ling stood up and said to the empty mountain with bright autumn colors. Although I don't know what I have that is worth your protection for so long. But I will work hard, work harder, and go all out. I will never let you down for your company for 300,000 days and nights. That's it? She took a last look at the temple. I'm leaving. After saying that, she carried her long skirt and floated down the mountain. Asterisk. Jang Ki-eun closed the passenger door for Laura, then opened the driver's door, sat down and fastened his seat belt. He asked in French, "Where are you going?" "I'll take you." Lola didn't answer, but looked at Jang Ki-eun's clear eyes. His brother hasn't told him yet that he knows Chinese? Also, didn't his brother ask him to find out about himself? "Don't you have anything to ask me?" Laura asked in a frivolous tone in French, leaning her elbow against the car window. Jang Ki-eun was stunned for a second. I asked where you wanted to go." Seeing his puzzled expression, Laura realized that Jang Ki-eun would not give the task of spying on him to this little puppy. Because this little puppy couldn't hide any thoughts. Laura's mood became a little better. "Since you don't have anything to ask me, why did you come to send me off?" Jang Ki-eun was even more puzzled. "You saved me, you are unfamiliar with China, you don't speak the language, and I know French, isn't it natural for me to come and pick you up?" Laura suddenly approached Jang Ki-eun. "Has anyone ever told you that you are cute?" Jang Ki-eun shuddered. "Yes. Too many. These days, everyone in Jiang's house teased him as a mascot." After teasing, looking at his frustrated and helpless appearance, he concluded, "Second young master, you are so cute." "What is so cute about grown men?" He didn't understand. He nodded honestly. Laura was about to ask who would describe him like this, but was attracted by his mobile phone placed on the armrest box between them. He received a text message on his mobile phone. The text message is hidden content. This is not the point. The point is the screensaver picture displayed after the screen lights up. A milky white cute little boy, holding a ball, sitting on the grass in front of the fountain, smiling happily. She has seen this photo. "Do you know Ji Chenjiao?" she asked. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 217. Jang Ki-eun was about to start the car, but when he heard her ask, he stopped. He looked at Laura sideways and asked in confusion, "Who are you talking about?" Lola paused. "Oh, the French just now." "Ji Chenjiao," Laura said in standard Chinese. Jang Ki-eun looked at Laura in disbelief. He shouted in Chinese, "Hey! You can actually speak Chinese." "Lola." Is he shocked that he can speak Chinese? Doesn't he know Ji Chenjiao? "Who is the photo on your phone screensaver?" Laura pointed at his phone and asked. "Tell me first, why did you hide the fact that you can speak Chinese?" Jang Ki-eun simply stopped driving, crossed his arms, and interrogated Laura. Lola laughed. Are you interrogating me? Lola pointed at Jang Kyun's phone and said deliberately, you don't answer my question, could it be that the boy is your son? Jang Kyun was speechless, how can I have a son? This is a photo of me when I was a child. But the little boy in this photo doesn't look like you, not cute at all. Jang Kyun immediately retorted, why not? I haven't changed much. Lola's eyebrows and eyes were all smiling. This person. Not only did he not answer her question, but he made her answer all the questions. Jang Kyun put down his phone angrily, you are cheating. Get off the car, I won't send you off. Lola sighed leisurely, because you never asked me if I can speak Chinese, I thought you told me French because you didn't want others to eavesdrop on our conversation. You know, it feels bad to be locked up in there without any privacy. Jang Kyun. Yes, she was locked up because she saved herself bravely. The Mu family has a special identity, and she is a foreigner, so it is naturally quite complicated to verify. Jang Kyun imagined the feeling of being under strict surveillance 24 hours a day, and being monitored in everything from eating, drinking, defecating, urinating, and sleeping. It was terrible. Although the conversations he had when visiting Laura were recorded, at least the people in the room at that time could not understand French. There was a sense of security that was like covering one's ears and stealing a bell. He secretly glanced at Laura. He seemed a little petty. Laura looked at Jang Kyun's face and knew that he had softened his heart. She unbuckled her seat belt and pretended to get out of the car. I won't bother you anymore, I'll take a taxi myself. Hey, wait a minute, Jang Kyun held Laura, don't lie to me again in the future. Laura stopped and looked back at Jang Kyun. Jang Kyun immediately let go of her hand. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to touch you. His face was slightly red. Laura's heart was heaving uncontrollably. Men like Jang Kyun are simply rare animals, and they want to be pushed down. Silly and cute, gentle and kind, clean and refreshing, with a pure mind like a primary school student. With such a cold and handsome face, the contrast is extreme. How can the Jang family let him go out to work in society? Watching Laura fasten her seat belt again, Jang Kyun cleared his throat. By the way, you just asked me if I knew Ji Chenjiao, that's the name, am I right? Lola put away other thoughts and nodded, yes. Do you know him? Jang Kyun supported his chin and frowned in thought, Ji Chenjiao, Ji Chenjiao. I know a few people with the surname Ji, and there is another famous director, but there is no one named Ji Chenjiao. What does she do? Is she a man or a woman? How old is she? Why do you think I know her? Lola thought to herself, because I have seen this photo of you at Ji Chenjiao's place. Ji Chenjiao has a very precious photo album. Lola once went to the war zone with the captain to save Ji Chenjiao. At that time, she knew that Ji Chenjiao always had a photo album in his school bag. The photo album was packed in a waterproof plastic bag, and the edges were frayed, looking old. Ji Chenjiao said that this was all her memories, representing the places she had been to and the people she had met over the years. And Laura had looked through this photo album. If everyone in the Rangers has a unique skill, Laura's skill is photographic memory. Her brain can flash memory scenes, just like eating Doraemon's memory bread, recording specific scenes in the brain in the form of photo storage. Ordinary photographic memory is also called residual image. Ordinary people remember blurred images through sensory memory. People with photographic memory can store images in their brains as vividly as the original images for minutes or days. After the captain's special directional training for Laura, she can store images in her brain for years. It will not fade and will not lack details. These memories are like books, stored in the library of the brain. When needed, they can be retrieved and opened for reading. She is sure that the photo in Ji Chenjiao's album is the same photo as the screensaver of Jang Kyun's mobile phone. She is a female reporter. I thought you might know her, Laura said lightly. Oh, a reporter. Jang Ki-eun shrugged. Is she a paparazzi in the entertainment industry? No. Forget it, Laura shook her head. I think too much. She saw that Jang Ki-eun really didn't know. But, how did Ji Chin-jae get this photo? Have you posted this photo online? She asked again. No, this was taken by my dad and has never been published online. Such a private photo? Maybe Ji Chin-jae and Jang Ki-eun have a deep connection, but Jang Ki-eun doesn't know it. What is their relationship? The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 218. A couple walked into the parking lot, and they laughed and discussed. Hey, do you want to eat Chungching hot pot for lunch? Isn't hot pot easy to get angry? There's a roast meat restaurant in the shopping mall near the door. There's a discount. Do you want to go? Jang Ki-eun looked at the time, 11:36. It's lunchtime. I have to be stuffed again when I get home. Would you like to have dinner together? Jang Ki-eun asked. Laura shook her long hair and said, of course you have to eat the free lunch. Do you have a favorite taste? French food? Or our Chinese food? Laura thought for a while and said with a smile, I want to eat roast pork ribs. Jang Ki-eun was stunned. He thought of desperate survival and his eldest sister Chang-ling. I couldn't help but feel a little depressed. What, don't you like pork ribs? Laura asked. Jang Ki-eun shook his head. No, I really like pork ribs. But it's the best ribs I've ever eaten. If I eat other people's ribs, I always feel a little bit hard to swallow. Oh? Where did you eat the most delicious ribs you said? I will try it if I have a chance in the future. Jang Ki-eun said with a hint of melancholy, I'm afraid I won't be able to eat it. A guest on my show roasted it in the wild. Laura looked curious. Huh? Is it actually baked in the wild? The conditions in the wild are so bad, how can it be better than the ones baked in the store? You must be exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. When Jang Ki-eun heard this, he immediately perked up. The eldest sister is really awesome. Let's do this. I'll just find a restaurant and we can sit down and chat. Calling it casual, Jang Ki-eun still found a top-notch private restaurant with excellent privacy. Jang Ki-eun, wearing sunglasses and a hat, was fully armed and took Laura into the private room. Laura is an excellent listener. She has been staring at Jang Ki-eun's face with curious eyes, and will give positive emotional feedback at the right time. Really? Wow, that's amazing. My mouth watered just listening to it. Make the other person talk involuntarily. Jang Ki-eun was very cautious and omitted the process of Chang-ling killing the Tibetan Mastiff and catching the drug dealer. At the end of the meal, Jang Ki-eun also finished bragging for Chang-ling. Under his polishing and processing, Chang-ling was like an almighty god, capable of anything. This girl, you call her eldest sister? Laura took a sip of her drink and stared at Jang Ki-eun. Are you friends with her? Jang Ki-eun was a little embarrassed. I'm afraid we can't be friends anymore. Laura asked, why? Because I confessed my love to her. She rejected me very calmly. Laura asked very exaggeratedly, is it impossible? You are so good, how can any woman refuse you? Jang Ki-eun quickly shook his head. No, she is great. Very powerful. To be honest, I am a terrible person. I have no responsibility, I don't recognize myself, and I am still a coward. Laura was silent for a while. She rejected you not because you are bad, but because you are not suitable. You are not bad at all. On the contrary, I think you are the best among all the men I have ever met. Laura said very seriously. Jang Ki-eun smiled bitterly. You Westerners always speak in such an exaggerated way. I have my own problems, and I understand them. You don't need to comfort me. Laura looked at Jang Kyun with complicated eyes. He doesn't understand. She didn't comfort him or exaggerate. She is someone who has been through hell, so of course she knows how precious Jang Kyun is. His politeness, his elegance, his kindness, his simplicity. It is extremely valuable in this ugly world. I'm sorry, you must be bored to say this. Jang Kyun pursed his lips. Actually, I've been holding these things in my heart these past few days, and I don't know who to talk to. Everyone was careful not to mention it. Afraid of hurting him. In fact, his experience in the wild boar forest was the most exciting and interesting day in his life. He savored it over and over again, chewing it again and again. I really want to find someone to share it with. Laura was actually trying to trick Jang Kyun on purpose. But she couldn't help comforting him. Actually, my personal feeling is that I don't think you have any ambiguous feelings towards that big sister, it's more of a dependence and attachment. Have you never talked about it? Ever been in love? Jang Kyun shook his head, no. Laura was shocked. Real or fake? Really, Jang Kyun said. Laura. This is unreasonable. The internationally renowned actor Jang Kyun is still a baby, it's incredible. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 219. Laura, who was originally sitting in an enchanting and sloppy posture, suddenly sat upright. Jang Kyun burst into laughter. I'm not some old-fashioned old man, you don't need to be so reserved. To be honest, Laura approached Jang Kyun with a purpose. But it was inevitable that he would have charming thoughts about Jang Kyun. She thought it would be nice to have a romantic encounter with such a high-quality Chinese man. She has been single for a long time. However, after hearing that Jang Kyun was still an innocent virgin, Laura gave up the idea. Now I feel that if I even think about it, I would be disrespecting Jang Kyun. You can't make random jokes anymore. Laura thought. Jang Kyun paid the bill and the two returned to the car. Laura sat upright, as if taking an ID photo at the Public Security Bureau, dignified and serious. The wandering eyes and intentional and unintentional touches were all put away. Jang Kyun couldn't stand Laura's flirtation before when she had nothing to do. However, he also felt awkward with such a serious Laura. He recalled the conversation between the two and guessed the reason. This made him like Laura a lot more. After all, he is also in the entertainment industry. Although he has not experienced it personally, he knows a lot about the dirty things between men and women. He will never play with people's emotions. He believes that falling in love without the purpose of marriage is a hooliganism. So if he has a crush on someone, he will directly propose to them. Jang Kyun asked, "Where is your home?" Heping Street, Zunfu. Jang Kyun glanced at Laura, and then started the car. Laura knew the reason why Jang Kyun looked at her. Because Jang Kyun also lives in this community. The car started slowly. There was an awkward atmosphere in the carriage. Jang Kyun broke the silence. You don't have to be so reserved. In fact, many of my friends have fun. Jang Kyun tapped the steering wheel with his slender fingers. I feel a little awkward when you do this. Hearing this, Laura put her hand on his thigh and smiled charmingly. Are you encouraging me? Jang Kyun almost drove the car into a ditch. His face suddenly turned red to the back of his ears. I realize how extreme you are. I mean, you don't need to be restrained. Laura smiled even more like a cat, and even squeezed her thigh hard before retracting her hand. To be honest, it was too uncomfortable for a handsome guy like Jang Kyun to just watch and not flirt with him. The blush on Jang Kyun's face did not fade for a long time. Laura smiled. It is said that Chinese parents are very traditional. At your age, you have never even been in love, and your mother doesn't push you. Jang Ki-eun pursed his lips and said after a while, I have never seen my mother. My dad never talks about my mom, every time I ask him, he is vague. This is the main reason why Jang Ki-eun has been at odds with his father for many years. Whether his mother remarried, cheated, made a mistake and went to jail, or died, no matter which outcome, he could accept it. Not like this now. Schrödinger's mother? The speaker has no intention, the listener has intention. Laura's thoughts suddenly crossed her mind, could it be that Ji Chin-gyo is his mother? Laura said, have you ever thought that maybe your mother didn't tell you because of her special status? Why didn't you tell me? Would I harm my mother? Jang Ki-eun was a little angry. Laura carefully polished her words, it's not that I'm afraid that you will harm your mother, maybe it's because I'm afraid that you can't help but go to her? Or maybe I'm afraid that you'll be easily tricked, so I won't tell you at all. In just one meal, Laura got all the information she wanted to know from Jang Ki-eun. Jang Ki-eun's eyes became sharp, are you saying I'm stupid? Laura, you make it impossible for me to answer the phone. I mean you are simple and kind, and you are not defensive about others, Laura said with difficulty, I didn't mean to say you were stupid. Jang Ki-eun smiled with his dimples, hey, my housekeeper said the same about me. Laura thought that if she was with Jang Ki-eun, she would definitely keep Jang Ki-eun in her pocket. Otherwise, this stupid kid would definitely be sold in minutes, and he would have to help others count the money diligently. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 220. Jang Ki-eun, who was still happily counting money after being sold, started the car. The two stopped chatting and Jang Ki-eun concentrated on driving. Not long after, we arrived at Zun's mansion. Because he is also the owner of the community, the car drove directly into the underground garage of the community. The garage in Building 6, Laura said. Jang Ki-eun said to his heart, what a coincidence. I am also from Building 6. When the car stopped, Laura unbuckled her seat belt and asked in a teasing voice, do you want to get in and sit down? Jang Ki-eun shook his head, no, I'm going home. If you need it, you can come to me at any time. Laura took out an exquisite business card, my home is in room 602, Building 6. Jang Ki-eun took the business card. Flower arranger Lola Vincent. Email, xxxx, phone, xxxx. While Jang Ki-eun lowered his head to look at the business card, Laura suddenly came to his cheek and gently touched it with her lips. Au revoir, she said. After saying that, without waiting for Jang Ki-eun's response, he opened the car door, took the small bag and left. Jang Ki-eun suddenly covered his face. Even though it was a very formal French polite goodbye kiss, he still felt like he was boiling. When the car drove out of the community, his face was still burning. Back at Jiang's house, Jang Ki-eun was in a good mood and hummed. Neither the housekeeper nor the father were in the living room. The servants greeted each other, and Jang Ki-eun smiled and nodded in response, where's my dad? Second young master, the master is in the study. Yeah, I understand. Jang Ki-eun walked along the stairs towards his father's study. The carpet at home has not been replaced for more than 10 years, and many places are bald. Many of the furniture are quite old and have not been replaced. The paint on the escalators is peeling off. Jang Ki-eun thought, he should pay for someone to replace him sometime. My brother and dad are exactly the same type of iron cock. As soon as he walked to the study room, he heard his father's excited voice coming from inside. Because it was through the door, I couldn't hear clearly. Just as Jang Ki-eun was about to turn around and leave, he seemed to hear his father mention his name. He hesitated for a while, then leaned against the door and listened. Xiaoun came back with great difficulty, I also wanted to tell you the good news. I just found out today that she can't be contacted in the war zone. Jiang's father's usually calm and powerful voice was unusually anxious. The flight is now. What information does it match? Sir, there are currently 32 people who have purchased airplane tickets under the name Jichenjiao. After comparison, the remaining 4 are more likely. One of them took off from the United States on September 24 and landed very close to the war zone. Among them are they flew to China from cities near the war zone on September 25 and September 27. The other one flew from Australia to Egypt today, September 30th. Among them, the 2 who flew to China have been identified and are not Madam. In addition, the specific information of the person on the Australian flight today is still under investigation. It is expected to be transmitted in half an hour. The passenger on the September 24 flight never showed up. There was no follow-up contact such as visa replacement. We wanted to confirm the identity, but found that the US official had encrypted the flight information. So, we suspect that Madam may have been detained by the United States. Jiang's father asked, which state and what airport is it from? California, Los Angeles International Airport. Jiang's father said nothing, and there was the sound of flipping through documents. Xiaolan said that the governor who killed the black reporter must be California. Yes, the butler said solemnly. Do you want to tell the young master about this? Not yet. You continue to think of ways as soon as possible to identify the American passenger, and then go back and see if she is on the entry list. I hope it's just me worrying too much. Zhang Qiun quickly left the study, went upstairs to his room, and closed the door tightly. Madam, reporter, Jichenjiao. Why did Laura ask him if he knew Jichenjiao? In addition, Laura said that Jichenjiao is a reporter. So, his mother is Jichenjiao. Brother also knows about mother's existence. Why is he the only one who doesn't know? Why does Laura know?